So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe that the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with a mindset and a practice of stewardship over ownership and applying biblical billionaire principles. Our ultimate goal: to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so that you can give more or all of it away to help MVPs, which are the most vulnerable people among us. Today, I'm your host, Brent Silberbauer, and I am filling in for Brett Swarts. In every episode, we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires as they share their principles, wisdom, and secrets, providing each of us with insights we need to reach the next level of success, faith, and impact. And today, I am excited for our next guest. It is David Hirschfeld, who is a 35-year software development veteran with a unique perspective on technological innovation and business growth. He's a former physics student from UCLA. David's career spans leadership roles at tech giants like Computer Associates, Texas Instruments, Intel, Motorola, before launching his first startup, which grew to over 800 customers across 22 countries globally and was successfully sold in 2000. So welcome, David, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Brent. Really excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you please share just a little bit about your story and your current focus?
Sure. Yes, as you mentioned, I was doing contract development and project management for some big companies and big projects, and then started my own software company in logistics, route distribution, and inventory management. And regardless of everything we did, we grew it anyway to 800 customers in 22 countries and sold it in 2000. So that was a successful exit. A few years later, started another software company in the automotive industry. It was a brokerage trading platform, and that one failed. And it failed it failed because I didn't follow the same playbook that I followed in my first company, and I didn't even realize what the difference was until I started Techies in 2007, and I've worked with over 90 startups at this point, and I've watched many of them follow the same process I did the second time and fail, and some of them followed the first process that I did the first time and were successful. And I started to clearly understand what that difference was, which led me to create a methodology called Launch First.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you may have kind of stumbled across the success principles with your first business that you didn't even realize that you were doing. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah. It just made sense in the context, but no, it was stumble for sure.
And then on the second one, obviously had a failure. Great to succeed on the first one, right? That's the important one. Get right out the gate with success. So what were some of those things that you put into practice? And obviously you said you worked with over 90 different companies and that kind of thing. What would you say is one of the key secrets that you kind of discovered to lend more to success rather than failing with a business startup?
Founders who I see that are consistently successful, there's a few things. And I'm talking to ones that are consistently successful, not the 1 in a million unicorns, but the ones that find a path to revenue and profit and build value in their business consistently. The first thing is that they recognize that what they believe is going to be a successful software company are just assumptions they've made. They're not based on fact. They may have some facts. They may be in an industry that where they're struggling with a problem and they figured out a way to solve that problem for themselves, and they have reached to a community of users like themselves that are struggling with the same problem. They can articulate what it costs them for that problem, what the value would be to them to solve that problem. These are kind of things that founders who are consistently successful can do, usually pretty consistently. And they recognize that just because it solves the problem for them does not mean that this other users in their community are going to get the same value, and that that problem is the priority for them. So so let me give it to you like this. Founders that come to me and fail, they are very easy to spot, usually up front. I'm not 100% right on this either, but it's pretty obvious. I've got this great idea. I believe it could become a unicorn. Everybody is going to, my market is everybody. Those are all code words for I'm going to fail. And they basically are wearing a black robe. They built a religion and a belief system around this thing they want to build. I spend a lot of my time usually with founders gently peeling that black robe off and trying to wrap them in a white clinician's coat and turn them into scientists, recognizing that anything that they believe is nothing more than just a belief and that they have to prove it. And the sooner they prove these beliefs or dispel them, the sooner they can find a path to success and revenue, or they can find a path to fail fast and cheap. And that's an important thing to try to achieve if you're a startup founder.
Right. Okay. So they have the black robe on at first, and it's almost like a kind of a dichotomy of, faith and science. They have this idea, they believe it's going to work, but it's not tested at all.
Right.
And the ones that, take the black robe off, okay, I have an idea, I think it's going to work. It's probably important to still have that faith at the core, but coupled with proving it in the marketplace on a small scale at first. Would you say that's a pretty fair assessment of that first secret that you found?
I think it's a very delicate line, faith versus conviction. So conviction that there is a business here versus faith that this is the product that people need. So faith that this is the product people need might get you started, but if you're not willing to step back and say, this may not be the product people need, but I know there's something here and I have a conviction around the something, but I need to figure out what that something is and nail it down so that I've got customers that want to buy my product when I build it. Because otherwise what you do is you build something that nobody wants to buy, or you have no idea who wants to buy it.
Yeah. And the success ratio for startups, is very small, right? Very small. So most often, and you're saying this is the number one secret, right, that determines success or failure, is this mindset of, I have an assumption, I have a conviction, I have this kind of faith, if we will, that there is a business here. And on the other side, though, the success is I'm going to test this, kind of first fire bullets, then fire cannonballs in a way of testing it on a small way, failing in a small way, and getting the feedback and reincorporating. Is that kind of a little bit about what you're saying here?
Yeah.
And that's the number one secret that you've found for successful versus not successful entrepreneurs. Is that accurate?
Yes. What is the hardest thing for most entrepreneurs to do early on before they have a product? It's go in front of customers and ask them to buy it in advance of it being available, because they risk people saying no. And that's scary for entrepreneurs to hear that people don't want what they thought everybody needed. So, but it's actually the people that are fearless and do this and get out in front of the customer and expose themselves to ridicule and failure are the ones that find a path to success much more quickly. And it's the ones that, the reason I don't like the word faith is because faith makes me think of, well, it doesn't matter if you believe in the God that I believe in, I believe it because I have faith, right? That's faith, which for religion is great, but for a startup founder, it's like the kiss of death, right? Conviction is different. To me, conviction is gives you the motivation to drive forward because there's a business, and the conviction is I'm going to either prove this right or I'm going to prove this wrong. It's not about the fact that I have faith that it's going to be successful. It's more I have conviction that there's something here and it's worth pursuing, and I'm going to work really hard to prove it one way or the other.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you said there that I honed in on is pre-sales.
Yeah.
Essentially, is you have this idea, you go in front of investors, consumers, clients, whoever it is, and you say, "Hey," you ask them for the money, you ask for the sale up front. Is that accurate?
Yes. So think about one of the most famous pre-sales ever. And this is not meant to be supportive or otherwise, but Elon Musk, when
Yeah, I
he
was going to
came
say the
out with his,
Cybertruck.
no, not even the
Not
Cybertruck, the
okay.
sports car
Ah,
before he ever had a car, right? The
yeah,
Tesla
the
sports
Roadster or
car.
whatever.
He
Yeah,
went out
yeah,
and sold several thousand units from a prototype that was
yes,
probably just made of plastic that people were impressed by,
yes.
and that raised the money to basically get him started, and also to
Mhm.
prove to investors that there was a market for this, so that he could start to raise more money. So that is pre-sales at its core.
Now, let me ask you this, because when you talk about this is really interesting, because usually there's like an inventor, and the inventor is, generally speaking, now you would know more. Generally speaking, not a gifted salesperson. Okay,
Right.
and you're a unicorn, like if you're an Elon Musk, and you're both, and you're able to, you're a Steve Jobs. You can invent and you can sell. How often do you see these together, and how often do they need counterparts? For one guy with the idea and the conviction and the invention, and do you see maybe they don't have enough money, or how often do they need another person who is the sales, in marketing piece of that? Because it seems like they work together hand in hand very early on, pre-sales. Is that?
Almost every successful startup um, has somebody that has both of these elements, or they're a
Mm,
non-technical founder and they have either a technical founder or they contract out the technology, which is what I do. We work with lots of companies like that, lots of non-technical founders.
okay.
That is a really good point that you bring up, though. So if you happen to be the guy that writes the code and you're also willing to get out in front of people and show them and get feedback and start to do pre-launch sales, then you're that blend of both of those. That would, and somebody like me, or somebody like, a lot of founders that I work with, not the ones I work with as much because they're non-technical founders, but a lot of technical
Hmm.
founders that you see that raise money have both qualities. They have a vision, they have the technical chops to deliver something early. They may just not continue to do the development once they've got a foundation and a footing, and then they start to build a team around them. But right, so it's very often you'll see people that partner up, a technical and a non-technical founder. That's a very tricky dance to find the compatible
Yes.
partners, a salesperson who's not overselling the technology, and the not the technical side of that, who is not overly focused on the technology but understands the needs for business.
Right, right. And so, David, now for our listeners who are listening, your business, you can be found at techies.com. It's tekyz.com.
Right.
And you mentioned that you oftentimes come alongside someone with the idea, someone with the conviction, someone with the invention, right?
Mhm. Right.
And you're more of the technical side. Can you explain and flesh out a little bit about, maybe give us an example of how that works in your business in everyday life?
Yeah, sure. So people come to me usually through referrals, uh,
Okay.
um, in the business networks that I work with and from past customers. They come to me because they have an idea they want to pursue, and that idea might be five bullets on a napkin. They may
Mm,
have done a sophisticated prototype of this idea. It's always a software project, right? Sometimes it's SaaS, sometimes it's enterprise. It can be a lot of different styles of software, but they're usually fairly sophisticated projects, not like a drinking beer app on the iPhone, but usually platforms of some kind. Anyway,
yeah.
they come to me and they want to build this thing, right? And so we'll spend time with them understanding the requirements. If they don't have detailed requirements, we'll build out those requirements for them, put together a
Mhm.
very detailed estimate of what we expect the cost to be and how long it's going to take to deliver the project and break this into releases, MVP, version 1, version 2, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And often we'll get people that come to us who have been working with other software teams over a period of time, very often a year and a half to 2 years, and have been
Okay.
struggling with quality, with delivery times, with cost, whatever it is. And then they come to us. Those are our favorite projects because we consider ourselves truly exceptional, which if anybody wants to know what that means, I'd be happy to show them why an exceptional software team is truly different than just your typical software team. Uh,
Yeah.
but those are my favorite projects, and we'll take the project over and either continue the development from where they are, or we'll start from scratch. And we're very honest with founders. If we don't feel we can work with the existing code base because of the quality and lack of documentation and the way it's architected and things like that, then we'll tell them right up front. So they're not spending any money with us until they understand exactly what they're getting involved with. But then we build it, we deliver the first version, and we continue to deliver versions with them as they start to launch and grow their business, or until they want to bring in an in-house team and start to build their own team internally, and then we'll help them do that.
Wow. Okay. So that's interesting. So let's just say someone's watching this right now and they're trying to go right from millions to billions. They have the idea, they have the tech, they have people that they are working with. Now, you said your favorite thing to do is to come in when there's already kind of like somewhat of an established, system and process, but it's not working. They're missing deadlines. The quality's not there. What sets your company apart? What sets techies apart? Like, how are you able to go in there and say, okay, we're going to meet these deadlines. We're going to increase the quality. Like, what are some of your secrets that you can implement that allow you to take over these roles and responsibilities and deliver on a higher level?
That's actually a really good question, but a hard one to just describe without showing you stuff. Which I'm not going to do that here,
Okay.
but I will describe what I can. So if you really work in an exceptional manner as a software team, then as a natural result of what you do, you're producing certain types of artifacts that typical software teams don't produce, and in terms of how they deliver, how they orchestrate, how they coordinate, all of these things. Some of
Mhm.
those things are, for example, the estimates that we produce. The level of detail in our estimates are orders of magnitude more detailed and more specific than
Okay.
estimates from other companies like us. And I only know that because this is what all of our clients have told us for years in
Yeah.
terms of when they get an estimate from us and somebody
Yes.
else, that the estimate from somebody else is usually a handful of paragraphs and some gross numbers, and we break things down at a very,
Yeah.
very granular level.
I
Um,
love that. One thing I hate is vague estimates
mhm.
with one number, right? Because sometimes you want to do the a la carte. You want the detail to say, okay, I don't think we need this, or yeah, I think this all works together. So I love detailed estimates personally when working on large projects. That's awesome. I love
Yeah,
that.
thanks. And as the project continues to evolve, we continue to provide estimates in terms of the changes and the new features that somebody's come up with, so that they understand what the impact is going to be in terms of delivery and timeframes and cost.
Mhm.
Now, to that end, we do a weekly status report. Nothing unusual about that, except for the level of detail that we have in our status reports. It only takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get through the status report, but the level of detail that's in there for the client is, again, order of magnitude above what most people would expect,
Okay.
including the estimates month to date and year to date, and what the actuals have been month to date and year to date, and what's
Mhm.
that variance. And if it's more than 10% above or below, then we spend some time doing our own post-mortem, understanding why our estimates were off. Sometimes it's because of changes in requirements, and then we call that out so that the client understands why an estimate went over or under. We don't want to be over or under. We want to be accurate. Uh,
Mhm.
but most software development companies are dealing with anywhere from 30% variances to 3x variances.
Wow.
So, and that's when we end up taking over projects when somebody said, oh, this will be a 3-month project, and 18 months later, they still don't have it done. So we get those
Yikes.
kinds of referrals all the time. Uh, So I don't know of other companies that do that level of detail in terms of tracking the actuals versus the estimates and report that on a weekly basis and a monthly basis.
Hmm.
And when we do invoicing, it's hourly rates for each resource based on their skill set, which is all part of our agreements. The client knows exactly what they're paying for and who's getting
Hmm.
paid what. And then we add the daily timesheets for everybody who's involved in the project to the invoice every month. I don't know of
Wow.
another software company that does that. We've built the systems to make this happen and facilitate this so that it doesn't become a big burden to our team, because we don't want to be the most detailed and accurate company in the world and everybody hates working for us, right? So we build in
Yes.
all kinds of automation to make this happen and very easy, and the people that work for us love working for us because we continue to find ways to improve and to automate what we do internally, not just what our clients are doing, but even what we're doing. So these are a few examples of things that we do we consider to be exceptional that other companies like us don't do.
Wow. So it sounds like you do have a long track record of, taking over and implementing and executing your plan on that granular level, relaying those reports. People know what they're getting. They know when they're getting it. Things are done on time, on budget, that kind of a thing. And that's probably one of your key differentiators in that software SaaS enterprise, market. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a good story, which I won't say who the company
Yeah.
is, but my largest client last year, we took over from another software company in the healthcare space
Okay.
that was a large healthcare software development company,
Hmm.
U.S. based company. We
Hmm.
took it over from them. Our client loved us. Then
Hmm.
they were starting to get a foothold in big state and national healthcare programs, and we're trying to work out a big deal with Google for investment. And so I went with them to San Jose for a few days while doing the dog and pony show, and they ended up securing this deal with Google.
Wow.
And as a result, Google said, okay, to the CEO of this company, that's fine, but we need you to convert all your stuff to the Google Cloud, which is I would have if I were Google. And
Yeah.
we need you to go work with a premier Google partner to do that. And the client said, okay, anyway. So I'm also an advisor on their advisory board, and I couldn't argue this. If I were Google, I would have probably recommended the same thing. So
Right.
anyway, so that was the end of last year. 2 months ago, they came back to us and they went with a premier Google partners, a $300 million custom software company. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, they came back to us 2 months ago wanting to look to give us back the project because they said, yeah, they're a big company, but they don't do the level of quality and detail. And they had like endless frustrations because we've set the bar pretty high. So
Hmm.
that's an example
Wow.
of what I mean by being exceptional.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the real world example because that's when the rubber hits the road, and you really have that proven track record. That sounds awesome. It sounds like you have a great organization there. Well, to stay on track, we're about ready to hit the lightning round for questions, David. But before we do want to segue. One of the things that we do on Build It to Billions podcast is we help people defer capital gains and have capital gains exit strategies. When we first started speaking, David, you mentioned having a successful exit of your first company in the year
Mhm.
2000, right?
Right.
I'm just curious for you, what was your capital gains exit strategy for that company? I mean, did you have a strategy in place, or did usually when someone
No,
has a large exit?
I had
Go
no
ahead.
strategy in place. And
Uh-huh.
actually, that was a pretty ugly story as it turned out. Because
Yeah.
after I sold my company, I sold it mostly for options. And that was in 2000, right before the tech
Oh,
bubble crashed in
.com.
2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I lost $10 million.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, when you look at exiting a company, a lot of people they don't fully think through the capital
yeah,
gains exit strategy, and especially living in California, you get hit with state, and federal capital gains taxes, and it gets ugly really quickly. And so the folks at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, they're like the Navy SEALs of capital gains exit strategies. It could be for any highly appreciated asset. It can be for real estate, business sales, which is really important. Real estate, they have a thing called a 1031 exchange where you can kind of exchange into like-kind real estate, which
Right.
helps you defer the capital gains. But there is not a 1031 exchange for business sales, Bitcoin, large stock exits, and other highly appreciated assets. And so that's kind of, what they do. They couple a trust with the installment sale. It's an amazing thing. They have lifelong IRS defense audit when you use them. So it's really awesome. So, if anyone is watching out there, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. If you're listening to David here and you have a software company, down the road, usually the end game is to have a successful exit.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you absolutely need a team around you who understand capital gains and exit planning. It is absolutely essential. So
Right.
head on over to
And Brent, in the
CGPS.
next 12 to 18 months, I'm definitely going to need your guys' help.
Yeah, absolutely. The team there, that's all they do. That's their 100% specialty, capital gains exit planning, and they're the best. They're just the best. So, anyways, let's get into the lightning round. Are you ready, David?
Yes, I am ready.
All right. So, question up. We got like 7 questions. It's gonna be rapid fire. So, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what is the number one thing that you would tell yourself to do?
Invest in Apple.
Invest in Apple. Nice one.
That's an
Nice
easy.
one.
That was a no-brainer.
No brainer. Okay, number 2. What's the number one book you have recommended or gifted in the past year?
The mom test.
The Mom Test.
Yes, because
Okay.
anybody that's in the startup world who wants to know how to get truth from potential customers before you even have a product,
Mhm.
that's what the whole book is about, and it's incredibly well done.
Who do you know who wrote that? Do you have the author?
I always forget his name, the author.
That's
But
okay.
he's
The
had
Mom
several.
Test.
He's had several successful exits. The author of that book, and how he built these companies. That's what the whole thing is about.
Okay. Good. Excellent. Number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
Right now, probably my biggest curiosity is trying to figure out how to predict the impact that AI is going to
Yeah.
have on my industry, right,
Mhm.
as well as the rest of the world. Some things are predictable, but some things are just really difficult because it's happening so fast.
Yeah, I think everyone's wondering the same thing. I've listened to podcasts and discussions. You get anywhere from utopian society to a dystopian Terminator 3, and yeah, it's
Well,
hard to know.
I have a prediction, unless you want to just finish the lightning round first.
Share just real quick during the light.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
share.
So, and I've been saying this for about 4 years. I said in about 7 or 8 years, what I predict is that the need for parking garages will go away. For public parking and
Yeah,
lots and garages will be gone, and
I
because
can see that.
of robo-taxis. And
Yeah.
right now, all of a sudden, we're hitting a tipping point of robo-taxis being launched, right? And the next tipping point will be the critical mass of them, and then people
Mm.
stop buying cars or ever using their own car to go anywhere
Mm.
like an event or to even to work, because it'll be so much cheaper just to get in a robo-taxi, and they'll be so available. You'll get them in a minute.
Yep. I just went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and they had the Waymo, and my wife and I were using that the whole
Yep.
time. And it's nice because sometimes people are introverted, sometimes they're extroverted, but sometimes you don't want to talk, to
Right.
anybody. You just want to go and hit the app, and
And it's
it worked.
safe. It's
Yeah,
safer.
and safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree there. Okay, how do you question number 4? How do you stay disciplined and healthy?
Disciplined, when I'm off work. Well, how do you stay disciplined? You just keep working hard. But to stay disciplined, on my off time, I do woodworking,
Mhm.
and I love to golf. So,
Okay.
but to stay disciplined, I always have real clear set of goals to drive forward on, and systems that I put in place so that things have, and I look for everything to automate.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be as disciplined. It just happens.
Excellent. Love it. Number 5, what is the number one way you are currently implementing AI? This is a big question. We ask everybody this, but for you, I'm sure it's a deeper question. But what just quickly, what's the number one way you're using AI in your current life?
Well, it's something that's about to happen based on tying a device to to CRMs that will automate workflows without you having to record your conversations when you're at live events or networking events.
Mm.
So that's the biggest thing that we're doing with AI. That and also just figuring at using it to expand referral networks.
Okay. What's your favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Um, never, always, only hire somebody if they are smarter than I am.
Okay. Very good. All right. That might be challenging. You seem like a pretty smart guy. You
Right.
may have a
So you
small
have to
team.
set the bar high. I don't know if I'm that smart, but there's always somebody smarter than me.
That's right.
In whatever the aspect I'm looking to hire somebody for, there's definitely people that are way smarter than me. And
Yeah.
because I need to know I can give it over to them and it's going to be better than if I tried to do it on my own.
Right, right. Okay, and we're almost out of time. So here's the last question. What is the best way that you practice stewardship mindset over ownership?
That's probably the biggest area of growth for me, actually. But hiring people that are smarter than me would be the number one thing that supports that,
Yeah.
because then I can hand over and support the people that I hire instead of having to drive them, they drive me.
Great, great. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, David, for being on the podcast. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's one last time? Is it the Techies website? What's the best
Yeah,
way for them to get a hold of you?
yeah.
Okay.
Go to techies.com, which is spelled TEKYZ
Okay.
.com, or find me on LinkedIn. You can find Techies on LinkedIn or David Hirschfeld on LinkedIn, and I'm easy to find on LinkedIn.
Got it. Excellent. Also want to thank all the listeners and the viewers to the Build It to Billions and Capital Gains Tax Solution podcast and YouTube channel. As a reminder, we're here with you on this journey to build from millions to billions so we can give more or all of it away to the MVPs, which are the most vulnerable people. We hope you enjoyed today's guest and content. Please rate, review, and share with someone that this could impact. Thanks, everyone, and make it a great day.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.